She's a bit wonky. So we'll see if it stabilizes. I'm getting groomed now. It's, let's see, Wednesday, the 5th of April. We are getting bombarded by some serious solar radiation and gamma rays. She tends to not want to stay snuggling once I start talking, because she's like, oh, it's awake time. I'm going to go put her away. So, just to say hello, Zan. Look at how big she's gotten. Look at those footsies. Aren't they adorable? Isn't she so cute? Good girl. I thought you guys might enjoy a touch of bunny love this morning. You can, if you want to see her more, I have basically held her for the first 3 minutes of the show. However, it's interesting, my connection keeps going on and off, so we'll see. Isn't she so cute? I just love her, Andrea. I love her. She's really gotten quite naughty about this paper. She loves to chew on paper, you guys. I can't even tell you how much she loves to chew on paper. She's like relentless about it. All she can think about is getting to the paper. Like, that is it. That's all she can think about. So anyway, morning announcements. Let's see. So again, Monday, next Monday, I might be a little bit late. I'll be here, but I might be a touch late. Svas has his last appointment with the surgeon. It's pretty early in the morning, so hopefully I'll be able to be back and on time and all of that stuff. Another announcement, this Friday, or not this Friday, but Friday the 28th and 29th, be down in Eugene. Good morning, everybody. Oh my God, Andrea, she is so soft and fluffy. Like, she's losing her winter coats. She's getting really sleek and really soft feeling. Jesse, you missed it. I was holding Zanzibar. Anyway, let's see. Friday the 28th, I'll be in a panel in Eugene, and Friday the 29th, I'll be at a fair. That's pretty much the announcements. We have 2 slots open for card pulls. I sound further away than normal. You know, it's interesting. My mic is exactly where it normally is. It's like right there. But my connection was really weird when I came on this morning. It showed me as not on at all, then on, then not on, then on. Yeah, your sketty took longer than you thought. So we have 2 slots open for card pulls if anybody wants them. And Jesse asked to be the 3rd card pulled, so I'm going to give him that time to get ready for that. Well, is there something else? Oh, I was going to tell you guys, check out this new piece that I just got. This is Seraphinite. So one of the things I don't talk about too much is my guides. One of my main guides is an angelic presence called Seraphine. And I didn't even know what that was or who that was or what that meant until she started talking with me and communicating. Yes. So we've got Stephanie and Lynn. Is that right? Martina. So Martina, since I just did you just the other day, I'm going to put Stephanie and Lynn down, and I'll put you down for tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I had never heard of, honestly, I wasn't raised in Christianity, so I'd never even heard of seraph angels. I didn't know anything about any of that. And I was using my pendulum with a letter chart. This was years ago, before I could really stream and hear what I was getting. And it told me that the person communicating with me was Seraphine, and it was so amazing. It was just a really powerful experience having that connection into her. Seraphim was oh, interesting. I didn't even know that. So, yeah, interesting. So see all these little synchronicities. So then I was at a Gem and Rock show. This was probably maybe 3 years ago. And I saw this big piece of Seraphinite. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I asked the woman, what is that called? And she said, Seraphinite. And I just like lost it. I was like, oh my God. But of course I couldn't afford it. It was like $400 for this chunk of it. So anyway, when I was at the Third Eye, which was my favorite head shop in Portland that just closed, they had all the stuff on sale. And one of them was this piece of seraphonite. And I was like, oh, love it, love it. He protected that which mattered most, the oracle. Oh, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting? It's so funny how synchronicities all line up. Today, I noticed that Chase just came on too. This morning, Chase posted this beautiful post talking about how to ascend the ego and how to step into a state in surrender into the unity consciousness. And it was beautiful because it sparked in me this concept, this idea, like, let's play with this a little bit. Let's examine this. And if you're interested in seeing that exchange, that's on his page, Chase Love. And it was, you know, I just wanted to thank you, Chase, because it's so awesome and beautiful to be able to have an exchange, to be able to play with ideas and concepts, especially one as tricky as the ego, and to still do it from a space of love. And I was talking with my friend Jesse about it, and one of the things he said was, oh, do you notice that this is also an illustration of polarity? And it was a perfect illustration of polarity, where we both had two separate sides, and then we found a way by exploring those two separate sides from a state of gratitude and allowance and love and surrender, right, to this place where, oh, we're actually kind of talking about the same thing, coming into the unity. And I think that's a perfect illustration of ways that we can do that, ways that we as individuations can find that unity together by exploring concepts. So I wanted to thank you publicly for that. I really enjoyed it. And often I don't know what I'm going to say until there's something that cues me to say it, right? So your post was the perfect cue for that, and I just wanted to thank you again. Chase's journey has been a wonderful journey to explore and to witness. I remember when he first started individuating, and I've been grateful to be a part of witnessing that. Thank you. I love watching you guys grow. I love being a part of that growth. I love being able to grow myself in that place with you all. Like, that is the best feeling every day. So for that, I love social media. I think it's a powerful tool, and sure, it may be being used or have an intention around it to be used for control and submission, but every day that we use it for growth, for unity, for development, for exploration, for coming together, every day that we use it for that, we retake that power and we empower each other with it. So here's to all of my social media lovely, beautiful people who work with me, who inspire me, who give me reason to show up, who spark in me an interest, a curiosity that helps me uncover and discover and explore even more. I am going to turn off the volume on that. Okay, so I'm sure you guys are gonna hoping that I'm gonna move on to other decks, back to my old decks, and I will. But for now, I'm going to continue with the Galactic Heritage cards because I just really love them and I'd like to get to know them better. So this is the Galactic Heritage deck that we're going to read from today. Card meanings and commentaries in the book. Who is this by again? By Lisa Royal Holt, and illustrations by David Cow. One of the things that I love the most about this deck is how she created it. You know, she had to step into a total state of allowance in order to create this deck in the first place because she'd never written a deck before. She tried a couple of different ways to get it done in the first place, and then had to scrap the idea that others were supposed to make it for her and do it herself. She just started by building the cards in a online program, and then went from there. Had no idea what was going to come out of it, no idea where it was going, and every bit of it just came through as she allowed more and more. and it's really quite beautiful. So Galactic Heritage cards. So we have a card pull for Stephanie, Lynn, and Jessie, and we'll see what these three cards tell us and if they're in alignment with what I think we're going to talk about today, which interestingly enough is going to be probably a continuation of the ego that we started talking about this week. Each week we're starting to explore themes. Last week we explored polarity. The week before we explored the victimhood filter and different ways of releasing our victimhood and finding our empowerment and finding our lessons in our state of victimhood. So this week it's going to be the ego. Let's see. So this card is, sorry Jessie, I know you said third, but this is your card. So I'm going to just look it up real quick, because since we're learning this new deck, and I love these channeled messages, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It's card number 97, Enlightenment. Here we go. Can you guys see it? There we go. This is Zeta Reticuli, Enlightenment and Future. The Zetas had a tangible experience of moving from fear to awakening, but it was not an easy one. Though that through this crisis, they had to first learn to embrace emotion as a valid part of existence, and then, at the same time, not attach to emotion, but rise above it. Encountering this paradox was essential to their transformation as a species. The same lesson as being asked of you now. Embrace and honor all aspects of who you are, even those that you don't like. At the same time, know that mind, emotions, and body are not who you are. Expand your consciousness beyond them. This is enlightenment. This card refers to the Zeta era, in which their fears and desperation were behind them, and they successfully reconnected to their galactic family. In addition to those milestones, they finally integrated their mental, emotional, and energetic bodies and used the lessons of those separate parts to show them that separation is an illusion and that their true state of being is as a unified consciousness that spans all of creation. Thus, their species attained enlightenment. This card came up in your reading. It means several things depending on the other cards in your life circumstances. Perhaps you have a strong connection with Zetas of this era, and they are assisting you in your spiritual growth in a subtle or obvious way. Or perhaps this card is meant to encourage you to continue your integration process even in the midst of pain, because pain is a sign of transformation and can be a powerful catalyst when used for personal growth. The card may be also reminding you that enlightenment is the natural state of being, and that your life as a separate self is merely an illusion. The underlying message is that the human experience of separation is but one part of who you are, and by embracing all aspects of the Zetas, and eventually did, without attaching to any aspect, you individually and humanity collectively can move to an enlightened state of consciousness. Now, isn't that funny? So Chase, this is just what we were talking about today. So we'll move to the next card and see how these all play together. Stephanie. So this card, Stephanie, is card number 36. This is one of the Orion cards, and it's called Delusion of Control, Past. Can you see it? There we go. Within the Orion system, the dark forces sought control at all costs. The need for control of your reality comes from the ego and is based purely on delusion. We cannot truly control anything, as only the universe, through its infinite wisdom, keeps everything in balance. Excuse me. Your need for control is a deep karmic pattern that is ready to be released. First, you must look deeply at the habits, patterns, and beliefs in your control, in your life, that reinforce the feelings that you are in control. Practice letting go and trusting. When the urge to control arises, take a deep breath and remember that it's only the desire of a fearful ego. During the darkest times in Orion history in this era, the Empire tried to exert control of nearly every aspect of life. Even if you imagine the most oppressive regimes on Earth, they would represent perhaps only 20% of the intensity of this era of Orion. Humans carry memories of these oppressive times and are still trying to heal those traumas. One of the ways in which polarity plays itself out in humanity reality is through the idea of how the human ego wishes to control reality when, in fact, reality cannot be controlled. Because there is a greater force, God, or whatever you wish to call it, that keeps everything in balance. So the more the ego feels powerless, the more it tries to control. This delusion of control has kept us stuck for a millennium. People and groups have tried to exert control from religions to politics, trying not only to control conditions, but thought as well. It simply doesn't work, and this is the lesson the Orions had to learn in very painful ways. Here on Earth, we have egos that try to control our realities, and ultimately it is never successful. If this card came up in your reading, it's asking you to look honestly and closely at how you try to control reality, including the people and conditions around you. Know that it is impossible to do so, so why keep trying? The message behind this card is to begin to heal that need for control and learn to surrender, letting go to the wise flow of the universe. This is the only way the planet and her people will not only survive, but flourish and move to the next stage of human evolution. All right, you guys, so far, these cards are in perfect alignment with what we've been talking about and what we're going to talk about today. So our last pull is for Lynn. Hi, Lynn. Interesting. So this is card number 39. Pleiades. You're welcome. Okay, Pleiades. This is imbalance in positive polarity, past, which is kind of funny because this morning, I'm just going to throw this out there. This morning I was, going through my feed and somebody had posted something that said, positive vibes only today. And I had to poke the bear, right? So I was like, well, positive only, that's denying the negative, which helps us to find the balance, right? We got to swing both ways in order to find that center balance point. And if we're only only all the way over here in the positive and trying to stay there, then we aren't experiencing the negative, which causes deconstruction of the beliefs that keep us believing that we're separate from each other, that keep us believing in one way or another we're better than, we're less than, or as the crow flies, in any way like that, right? So I had to kind of poke a little. All right, so here we go. Here's the image. I know, right, Jessie? All right, in the ancient Pleiadian history, one of the core lessons of the species had to do with denying the shadow within the self. They only wanted to focus on the positive and habitually suppressed their dark aspects. It is important to recognize and embrace all aspects, dark and light, in your life now. Try to see where you suppress the darkness inside, such as emotions or pain you don't want to feel. See it, love it, and dialogue with it. Use it as part of your growth. In doing so, you will heal many old habits and patterns from lifetimes past, on Earth and in the stars. This card represents one of the core lessons of the Pleiadian people when they were a young species. Let's see, I'm bringing that up a little more closely. They had a tendency to push away the negative emotions and only acknowledge the positive in life. These unprocessed emotions festered on a collective level, and after millennia, they submerged energy had to be released. This unconscious negative energy created an immune system disease that ravished the Pleiadian people. No one could find a cure. It wasn't until they sought help from the shamans of their society that they fully understood what was happening. After much inner searching, the shamans realized that the repressed negative energy on a collective level was creating this immune disease. They made many suggestions to release this energy, and eventually the disease disappeared. Humans are genetically most connected to the Pleiadian people, and we have a tendency to do the same thing, to push away our unpleasant emotions and the dark aspects of our psyches. Many of the diseases we face today are because of this repressed emotion. If this card came up in your reading, it's most likely that had experiences in the Pleiadian system during this era in which this issue of repressed emotion was happening. It is also a message to continue to stay connected to the emotions you're feeling and never push them away. You can write about them or face and embrace them in meditation. You can make a commitment to this process that you will live a happier and a healthier life. So these three cards right here, once again, are bang on for what we're going to be talking about, what we are talking about already, which is that ego and how to embrace it, how to come into oneness with the self, how to balance out the positive with the negative. So no Vulcans need apply. No, Justine, not today, but I can put you down for tomorrow. And how to release the delusions of control to achieve enlightenment, right? So these are the things that we're going to talk about today. I was thinking, Jesse actually suggested an experiment that I thought would be really fun. Oh, one of my friends just let me know he missed his flight, who I'm supposed to pick up from the airport. So I think I've got Stephanie and somebody else. Remind me who else I need to pull for tomorrow. And I'll write them down. Justine. Okay. So what Jesse suggested was, yesterday I talked with you guys about one of my own ego battles that I was having, right? One of my own struggles with my own self through another self, with the woman who, was like stealing my work, right? That feeling of not being witnessed, not being validated, not being seen, all of that stuff, right? So I want you guys to try this out. If you feel safe enough in this space, which I hope you do by this point, we've really worked hard to create a space together that is beautiful, that is open, that is safe, that we can be vulnerable in together. I want you guys to write down in the chat something that your ego has been struggling with, right? Something that you've been struggling with in relationship to your sense of self, your self-empowerment, your delusions of control, something you've been trying to put control. Oh, I did pull for you today, Stephanie. That's right. And some way that you've been seeking imbalance and positive polarity. And just write something out for us. And I want you guys to share with each other, because it's by witnessing the other selves, by seeing how the other selves struggle, where they're at, that we begin to embrace ourselves more, right? If somebody else is struggling with the same thing, no direction to follow. Jesse, thank you for going first. He wrote, I judged the lady in the car in front of me as an idiot and incompetent and insecure driver for not taking the left turn openings that kept zooming past while waiting for an absolutely clear chance to cross. You know what? I'm going to just be totally honest. In the car is my weakest space. Oh, I so get that one, Jesse. When I'm driving, I feel constantly frustrated by what people are choosing to and not do, right? So, and that's a perfect illustration of people in their vehicles. People moving and navigating with their vehicles, showing their fear, showing their insecurity, all of those things. Perfect illustration. Excellent job. How about anybody else? Is anyone else feeling confident and secure enough to talk about their polarity or talk about their delusions of control, right? Because the other thing is, what we have to also remember is that we want people to not be doing things that may put them into danger. And we may see that there's no danger there, but they have yet to see it. So when people are acting from a space of fear, then that's going to cause them to miss opportunities as well, right? So that person was fearful, so they weren't able to seize the opportunities and the chances that came up. So that's another point in that as well. I see that nobody else is quite there yet, so I'm going to keep talking about the ego. With the delusions of control, that space that we have, the idea that we're in control, that we're in power, that we are right, we are justified. Let's see. Unable to find my passion, feeling frustrated with those around me. Well, you know, if you're frustrated with yourself and not able to find what your goal, what your drive, what your passion, what you're here to do is, then it's going to pop up a lot as far as seeing it in other people, seeing those people that are around you frustrating you, because that's really going to be, they're probably illustrating the parts of the self where it's like, I wish I were free to do that. Will you still love me if I do it this way? The relationship between myself and my mother, those are the hardest, you know. As you guys know, I've talked about this before. My mother and I don't really have a relationship right now. She's decided to separate from me, and I have to kind of allow that and just let her release me from that role. Recognizing also that by being released by another self, that I'm done with those lessons. So when we have conflict with our mothers, it's really challenging. Especially with our mothers, we have her X chromosome. And with our fathers, we have his mother's X or his father's mother's X chromosome. So that makes us have, like, you know, it's a different connection with our fathers than we have with our mothers. It's more like how the father and son connection is, where they have their direct father's Y chromosome, and then that comes down the father line. So it's almost like it's a self, but then a distortion of the self. So the mother will tend to see herself in the daughter, and the daughter sees herself as different and separate from, because she sees that she's has other influences. So there's usually a big conflict when that's going on. And that's a perfect illustration of the self, that higher self coming down into the vessel self, this human expression, and the conflict that we have between what we know up here, what we know when we're out of our body, when we're out of the influence of the physicality, and then what happens when we come into the physicality. And how do we balance those two things? Projection, Lynn. Yeah, usually it is about projection when we're feeling frustrated with others. That would echo back to what Jessie said about the car and driving in the car, because when we're driving in the car, we assume the other person has our ability, has our foresight, has our skill. I mean, what if that person just has a slower judgment, right? Or slower reaction time? Maybe their car doesn't have as much get up and go as our car. Maybe our car would make it just fine through that intersection, but their car wouldn't. Perhaps there's something wrong with their car, an invisible disability that we cannot see, right? So that's also creating allowance for each other, which can be really frustrating. Let's see. So Jessie wrote, actually, Lynn, a lack of external direction is a direct opportunity and in a universal nudge to look inward for direction. I agree, Jessie. When we're trying to figure out what our path is, the more we look externally at each other to try to figure out what we're supposed to be doing, the more confusing it gets, because then we're judging ourselves against the other selves. And we're not recognizing the individuation which we came here to be. And that was what the struggle I was having with that woman was, right? Because she wasn't recognizing the beautiful individuation that she came here to be. She was trying to embody a different individuation. So it was like, that was part of my struggle with her, is like, hey, you have so much to offer. You don't want to try to be me. You're not going to be able to do it as well. You're going to feel frustrated. I'm going to feel frustrated. And I sure would love to see what you have here. You've come here to offer. Stephanie, I tried to post, but it's not showing up. My relationship with my husband, we've both been very critical of each other, and I can be hypercritical of him. Orion card was definitely perfect for me today. You know, my husband and I have had a lot of struggles around that. One of the things that we have to say to each other is, please stop trying to manage yourself by trying to manage me. Okay, and that's one of the things that like just clicks it. We're like, whoa, oh, right. Okay, that's right. This is my anxiety right now, and I'm trying to manage you so I don't have to feel anxious. That's trying to control the external in order to not feel so disempowered on the internal. So that's a great example. And yeah, Stephanie, what a perfect awareness to have. Whenever we want the external to change in order to make us more comfortable, whenever we want the external to be more of what we desire it to be, we're denying the internal climate. We're thinking that the internal climate is less important than the external. It's kind of like how Bashar says, if you wanted to change the external, it's like yelling at the mirror and telling the mirror to smile at you, when what you really have to do is smile, and then the mirror smiles back. So remembering that that external is not beyond you, right? It's a reflection of what the internal climate actually is. It's not a reflection of your relationship with the external environment. It's a reflection of your relationship with yourself. So if you find the external constantly in conflict, and remember yesterday when we talked about my own conflict as an example of an ego battle with the self, when we talked about that, how it came down to ultimately I had to become good with stepping into my own power. I had to become good and comfortable with being who I came here to be and stepping forward in my full self. I had to take that place. And if I'm not taking that place, somebody else is going to step into that place for me, right? Because I'm leaving a vacancy of being myself, being my individuation, and loving that individuation, being grateful, right? Stepping into a place of gratitude for the self. So let's see what else. The struggle and the polarity with the forgiveness and the ego, Karen writes, the struggle in the polarity with forgiveness and the ego piece, attempting to hang on while the higher self has already released it and allowing me to, giving me an opportunity in new spaces. So when the higher self has accepted and realized something, but the physical self has not yet, that's showing you that there are still aspects in the physical vessel that are blocking this belief, the allowance of this belief, that need to be addressed. And that's usually going to manifest as some sort of illness, some sort of physical impairment, some sort of like stiffness. Usually it's in our joints, because our joints need to be flexible and moving. And when we're rigid in a belief system or still holding on to the pain of a belief system, the joints become stiff. So oftentimes people who don't really embody who they came here to be will end up like with arthritis in the hands, or they'll have knee problems. So it's very common. So then it becomes about, how do you release that? Well, one of the ways that I do when I still have a knee issue, because there's one aspect of myself, that masculine part of myself that steps forward, that kind of like puts forward their energy, that still feels like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do it that firmly. I don't know if I'm supposed to be that strong in that step. So where feminine energy is more of an allowance energy and masculine is more of an insertion, and we balance them, I'm not balanced in that. So what I do is I give a mouth to my knee. When my knee is hurting, I ground myself, I connect myself, I invite Gaia to support me and help me see where my physicality is struggling. And I give a mouth to my knee, and I'm like, tell me what it is that I'm missing right now. And I let all the thoughts, the ideas pop up and surface. And as we witness, if we witness an allowance of these things, they automatically start to dissolve. The issues start to resolve themselves. And if they don't, then I seek out, where else do I have a stored belief? Do I have any other physical ailments or physical symptoms showing up? Do I have thoughts or ideas that are starting to spin? And then that takes us back to what we worked on 2 weeks ago, which is victimhood. So go back into that and watch some of those meditations that we did to help witness the parts of the selves that have identified as not worthy of your love, not worthy of your acceptance, and rejected, so they have to live on the external. And that's how we can kind of come out of that trap of not finding forgiveness in the self. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. So that is the talk about ego for today. And the enlightenment piece, you know, one of the things that I wanted to say about enlightenment, I really loved the Teal Swan talk that she did. I think I posted it in the group. If you're not in the Healing Pathwalker group, feel free to join it. That's where I post a lot of resources and information, post things that inspire me, things that I find interesting, and our shows and blah, blah, blah. So one of the things that she talks about enlightenment is the first enlightenment that we have, that first stage of enlightenment, is about is recognizing that unity, right? When we actually get up into that source consciousness and we feel that unity, that oneness with source, that oneness with the infinite creation, it is like no other sense, right? It is the high. It is so full and complete. There's nothing left of the self. But then we have to come back into the self, this individuation, and we're like, oh my God, I don't want anything to take me out of that high space, that beautiful, loving, wonderful high space. So we start to wrap ourselves in this bubble of positivity. That still is a form of polarity. And as the Pleiadian lesson, the imbalance of positive polarity talked about, that creates disease in ourselves, because the reality is, so long as any of the other selves in the creation are not in an enlightenment state, then we ourselves are not either, because that's what unity is. We are a collective. And if any one part of the collective is broken and not functioning, is not feeling the unity, is not being allowed, is not being accepted, then it will manifest as problems. Just like how this talked about with the Pleiadians, as long as they denied their own negative polarity and denied their own darker side as well, not bringing that into balance with the rest of the self, only focusing on the positive, it became an immune disease. What are immune diseases? They're diseases where our body attacks itself, right? Our body is attacking us. Our vessel, which holds all of our beliefs, it's attacking our energy, ourselves. Our body is attacking itself because it's been rejected by the self. So by embracing the negative polarity, and that's what I was asking you guys to do in this exercise, is embrace those parts of yourselves that are negative. Not to be in judgment of the self that, oh, I'm so bad because I still think this way. I'm such a bad person. But to see, oh, wow, they have that. I have that too. Oh my God, I struggle with that too. We are in unity. Look, we all have this. We all struggle in the car when the person in front of us has the blinker on for friggin' ever. And we're like, are you turning? And then they turn it off and then they turn and we're just like, "Rrr." We share that, right? We share that frustration with each other as we're confused, and we get to be confused too then. We don't have to sit in anger at ourselves for our own confusion. We can be an allowance for it, and the other self is helping remind us, oh, it's okay. It's okay to not know where you're turning. It's okay to take a little bit longer. It really didn't actually impact you other than slow you down a few seconds, right? It's okay. Maybe that slowing you down was for your own good. Maybe it gave you pause. Maybe it gave you time to witness your own confusion. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And our meditation time is here. I was given this beautiful gift, actually 2 of these beautiful gifts, and I thought it would be a perfect thing to use today. We do a lot of work looking in the mirror, right? Exactly. There is no light without darkness. And we live in a polarized expression, right? So that's part of it. It has to be a part of it. I'm just cleaning it off. So this was the gift I was given. Isn't this a beautiful mirror? Oh my gosh, can we get infinity going? I think we could. Oh, and look, it just turns into light. Oh, isn't that perfect? So we're going to use this mirror today as a tool for our embracing our own darkness. Look how dark that mirror is. So go ahead and get yourselves comfortable, get ready, prepare yourselves for meditation. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee because I just love it. Okay, so we're going to start by just getting really connected and grounded into the vessel. We've been working on lately being in allowance of our connection and our grounding, so we're going to continue that today. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, breathing in this present moment, present state of awareness, and exhaling. Yes. Breathing in, feeling the air, the smells, the temperature as it comes into the body, into the vessel. Lifting the chest, breathing from the diaphragm and exhaling, just releasing. Breathing in this present moment, present state of awareness. And as you exhale, I want you to just unhook from anything that draws you, pulls you away from this moment, makes you think about today, later today, tomorrow. Just unhook from those things as you come more into this present. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection. And exhaling, unhooking from those things in the past that have drawn us away from the present, those memories, those ideas, those beliefs, those justifications, those wounds, right? Just unhooking, breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection. Huge pressure change. And exhaling, we're going to unhook from our expectations of ourselves in this moment, ourselves and our other selves, just unhooking, coming into a state of allowance for the self in all of its expressions. The expression named me, the expression named you. Continue this breathing as you open up that heart chakra, feeling the root coming up, feeling Gaia coming up through the vessel, inviting her to come in and asking her to support you as you seek to understand your physicality, your individuation, your expression here and now. I'm going to let you guys feel Gaia coming through you without guiding you today. Practicing this also week. If you're struggling or feeling like the energy is stuck somewhere, remember that too is a communication with the self. A communication about where belief is stored. Thank the body and the vessel for showing you this stored belief, this block, this holding space, and promise that we will address it and allow the energy to continue to flow. Good. And now that we feel like we're full up of that Gaia energy, that beautiful consciousness energy, we're going to open up and invite Source, that unity consciousness, that infinite consciousness, to come in and help us to remember and feel connected to the creation and the whole and the unity, right? Just opening up and allowing that second vibration to come in, because we're a physical expression of an infinite consciousness. Allowing that to come into the vessel and open. You guys are so good at this. Most of us here are much better at receiving the source consciousness than Gaia's. Asking for source's support in understanding ourselves better. Understanding why we came here as an individuation. What we came to accomplish as a unity, as a collective. Because many of us came here for a specific reason. Look, there's two of me. Now we're going to look in the mirror. So visualize a mirror in front of you. See inside that mirror, first, whatever is reflected. We'll just show the reflection. Whatever that is, looking at how light we feel, how bright we are, that feeling of being shiny. And now we're going to tilt that mirror until we see the dark underside, the darkness that we hide from ourselves. What have we rejected from the self? What are the dark aspects that we don't want to accept as part of ourselves? What are the beliefs that make us think we're not worthy, we're not valuable, we're not lovable? What are those expressions that the ego hides in order to stay justified, to live on the pedestal of righteousness? Just allow. And remember, we're not trying to change these things. We're only witnessing them in a state of allowance of them. By witnessing them, we can find a way to be grateful for them, to see how they balance us, actually. They give us a foundation, they give us a weight, they bring us and anchor us into this physicality with which we came here to express. They help us to connect ourselves to the other selves, so that we can become one, not denying any aspect of the self in that point. If you're having like burps like I am, releasing, that's releasing things that have been stored in that ego space, in that stomach space, in the intestines, right? How we digest, how we process, how we come to ourselves more clearly, just in allowance. Now we're going to turn that mirror and look at the things, the aspects of ourselves that we feel bring us light, bring us joy, bring us into the light, connect us into the infinite, fill us with that light. And now we're going to play with balancing the two, right? So we've got light and dark, seeing that we exist between, witnessing the self in its entirety, in its lightness and in its darkness. Begin to see how those dark expressions that define, that create a structure, that create a distinguishing space between the self and the other selves, are actually a beautiful part of the unity, of the whole, as much a part as the light. If there were no darkness, we would not be able to see. We wouldn't be able to witness. If we absorbed everything, there'd be nothing to witness either. Right? Our reflections are part of that. They're as much a part of the experience as the source is. Feel that balance coming into the whole. And feeling how that energy is really expanding in that chest space and the heart space. The heart space being that center chakra between our individuation and physicality and our unity connection into source consciousness. It is that point where we come into wholeness, into oneness, and into unity, and we can send that love out. So let's imagine that we're sending that love with the light and the dark perfectly balanced out into the creation, sending it out into that web of all of humanity. And we are embracing even the confused, even the dark, even the lost, all aspects of all of ourselves. We're sending love, gratitude, and acceptance in total allowance for all aspects of the self. Let's just do this for a little while. This will be how we close out today. That feels amazing, doesn't it, you guys? I love you all. I want to thank you for joining me today. Continue to stay in this space for as long as you feel drawn to hold it. Try as you move throughout your day today to send that allowance, love, and acceptance for even the dark, even the confused, even the angry, even the bitter, all of that. Send love and acceptance and recognition that that's part of the self too, so that we don't have to fill ourselves with the disease of dis-ease. I love you guys. You're welcome. See you tomorrow. We'll explore the ego a little bit more.